All right. Hey, everybody. Am I in the shop even?
Yes.
How's it going, everybody? So today with After School STEM, what we're looking at today is the new 3D printer that the Science Center got. So we got a donation which allowed us to purchase this. And this 3D printer is going to be used for a few things around the Science Center. One of them being making items for an event coming up, the Prehistoric Painting Night, which if you would like to, we have posters, and if you come into the Science Center, we have a sign-up sheet that you can use to sign up. When you sign up, please remember to write out how many spots you want, so we are doing this per spot for painting. But yeah, now onto this. So 3D printers are kind of a cool technology that have really gotten more and more efficient and usable for everyone in the past few years. Correct me if I'm wrong, like it was really only the past like 5 years where we started getting like in-home 3D printers.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about 3D printers is they work on a very simple principle, which is extrusion. So this filament, which is plastic, gets pushed through this tube, and there's a little nozzle with a very narrow opening at the end of this that's currently working. And what that then does is it just starts building layers and layers and layers. If you ever played with a hot glue gun as a child and like just made layer after layer on top of itself to build like a tower or something, it's the exact same principle. But with that principle, you can do a lot. One thing we printed today, just testing to make sure the printer worked, is a little ghost. It's a relatively simple shape. It's hollow on the inside. But with solid prints, typically the printer doesn't just print a solid lump of plastic. What it does is print a kind of structure inside to support a relatively hollow structure, and this print shows that. This would be a scan of a cave art rhino. The print failed on my home printer, but it failed in a really good cross-section to show what the inside of a lot of more solid 3D prints look like. And you can make relatively organic shapes with a filament printer. A lot of people think it's going to look really angular because a lot of people tend to print in low sort of resolution things, but you can make relatively smooth stuff. You guys on my streams have probably seen a lot of my 3D printed stuff because I like to have tangible stuff, and sometimes we don't have those specimens here. Another thing you can make, which I'm very amused that everyone always is surprised that this is a 3D print. This is a megalodon tooth. Just to show, again, how organic a shape you can really make with 3D printers. And in sort of concert with 3D modeling, you can make other stuff. Like, I believe on the last stream, there was Otzi the Iceman's copper axe, which this is a more scaled down version. But you can do other very complicated shapes, like a stone arrowhead, or a big old prehistoric fish, which you can even see some of the detail on the plates on the front. But yeah, 3D printing is a technology that's also got some very good utilitarian purposes. You can make spare parts for things. People have been using it in wildlife work actually to 3D print stuff for animals with injuries. Just a couple of years ago, they 3D printed a beak for an eagle. They 3D printed a section of shell for a tortoise. And there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like, you can even 3D print modifications for a printer. And the model we have, we use Creality brand printer. And this is the Ender 3 V2, a relatively new printer, I think. And it works really well. So the way it actually does this is there are two belts, one belt here and one here. And with those two axes, it can move on the x-axis and the y-axis. And then it has this little wheel, and there is a spiral sort of rod, which is threaded here, which can lift the extruder up which gives it access to the Z-axis, making it a 3D printer. And that allows it to print relatively complex shaped objects. Right now we're printing another little ghost on the printer, and you can see from this, it can do these relatively smooth, round shapes. And even leave, it's hard to see, but 2 little eye holes on the ghost. So like, what are things that you've heard about 3D printers? Like, you have anything you think is worth hearing
3D
about?
printed houses, fun.
Yeah. So 3D printers don't just work in plastic. So there is another larger group of printers, which we would call resin printers, which use a bed of liquid resin and use a UV light, a small, very small little opening to strategically and precisely cure parts of it. But with this sort of filament type printer, there's a lot. There's ceramic printers, there's metal, there's, I think that would be concrete is what the other one's using. You can, so long as you can get an extrusion happening, you can use this same principle with a lot of materials. You'll actually see a lot of metal printers nowadays. I've seen stuff printed in brass and copper and stuff. It works really well, and it's a great way to open up stuff to more people. You can do a lot if you're not necessarily good with your hands. You can sculpt something online and print it, where some people don't have the skill to do that. Or if you just like designing stuff and finding files, like I, on my printer at home, print out a bunch of stuff just because it's fun. And here, we are able to use stuff for educational purposes. We hope to have this printer eventually out on the exhibit floor so people can watch it work. But yeah, like another stuff like this. This is 3D printed in multiple parts. And you can make, like I said, very complex objects that are useful for education purposes or just for fun. You have any questions about 3D printer?
So it moves the table as well as the top of it?
Yes, so the print bed is what this little table thing is, and that is what the print is put on, and that is one part that moves. The extruder nozzle is one part that moves, and then this whole bar is the other part that moves, that's what goes up and down.
So it's heating up that filament as it goes?
Yep, right at the nozzle there's a little hot end in this box that heats up the plastic as it gets pushed through. And it, again, is a very sound principle. It's something that you could really mess around with very simple technology. But yeah, so I assembled this morning. Hopefully you guys will be seeing more of this and more sort of results of us working on the 3D printer. Other than that, though, we will let it just sit and watch the 3D printer for a little bit. So we're gonna wrap up the live stream here. The Science Center is open 7 days a week, 6 days from 9:30 to 5.